Surely here, Spirit of Mattering in Sirius Talus Moon. This is Mars, our Mars night. And the ascendant was a crossing then of Algedy, now 28 degrees Aquarius. The moon is in Taurus, exactly opposing Black Moon Lilith. Venus is in toxic degree 18 in Cancer. So it's not a talismanic materia, but otherwise, I would wait for like, I don't know, 10 minutes ago, and I would do something. We can call on Antares. Anyway, meet my husband in spirit, Albert Camus. Now, there's a reason for me saying that, actually. Ascendant on my descendant. Rahu not too far from my ascendant. Yes. Oh, look, the moon. The moon right now is where the ascendant is for the chart of the moment. Yes, mid-heaven, close to my Juno. 22 Cancer, because you gotta have something on the 22. Mercury on my Ketu, and Jupiter on my Jupiter, but direct. Yeah. So I was just taking a look at the chart of Albert Camus, because I haven't spirit of mattered anyone in a while. And Albert Camus, I ran into Albert Camus at the end of the 2000s, where I began to notice that really horrid things happen in my life, and yet I do have the ability to create. And the book L'Homme Rebelle, okay, the rebellious human, accompanied my life in a time where it was evident that it would be of use. I was in tremendous upheaval, spiritual whatnot, and unfortunately also ritual abuse. Those things don't only happen in physical, so people feel that with spiritual warfare. But yeah, and the notion that the young people rebel because they have energy, but the older people, they know more of what needs to change, but they have a less energy. So what does the chart delivers? And I usually go by, let's take a look at the hidden houses. Let's take a look at the 12th house. And the ruler of the 12th in the 3rd tells me that this is a person who is going to bring some sort of a leadership to the mundane, to the practical, everyday life. Okay, 12th house Leo is about leadership, it's about intelligence, performance, and Sun in Scorpio gives us this tremendous depth. And the 3rd house is, and I'm also 3rd house Sun, but opposite ascendant, exactly opposite ascendant. You cannot unsee a chart 2.0. But this one doesn't have a karmic rope with me, and I'm so happy because Magha Nakshatra Moon. 3rd house Sun is about the daily practice of with the Sun leadership in life. So this is a person that whose leadership qualities are going to pertain to the everyday life. It's a person that doesn't leave the spiritual up there. It's there, and they may find when they tend to their daily routine, they may find their leadership power. He would probably have a podcast in nowadays society. Um, Ascendant 24 degrees Virgo, Mercury in Sagittarius, Jupiter in Capricorn. So before I touch on Uranus, Neptune, Saturn opposing Uranus, Mars opposing Uranus, but ascendant tells us that this is a person of the word. It's a Mercury ruled ascendant, and the word has to do with freedom. He writes, he speaks because of desire to be free, and Jupiter in Capricorn is aware of one should be well prepared to be free. Okay, it is the middle phase of Capricorn that according to Oswin Coppock talks about. I call it the prepper deacon of Capricorn. And having Jupiter there is, first of all, being optimistic about being able to prepare, but also it's the optimism that brings in what can I control, what can I not control. Okay, for example, I have Jupiter in that deacon, and there are certain things where people would talk to me about investments, and I would say, I see the trajectory. People, anyway, in an apocalypse, people have to rely on one another. So the best thing is to tend to satanic ritual abuse, okay, Saturn, and try to tend as much to abolish that, because when nothing is, then all we have to rely on is on each other. And if we go by the self-preservation instinct, we basically don't want to live anymore. I am an embodiment of that thing. And so Jupiter is considered fallen in Capricorn because Capricorn is about the limitation and the real world, and Jupiter is about expansion. Jupiter in Saturn sign experiences the challenges to that expansion, the challenges to the freedom, which Albert Camus tend to in his writing, with this existential crisis. So you see a Jupiter in Capricorn. By the way, also Adolf Hitler had that. He talked about a master race, and eventually laid the foundation that we know as evidence to MK Ultra in the last segment of Mein Kampf. I learned it from Dr. Engel, that was a survivor of that MK Ultra. But here we have a distinct persona from Adolf Hitler, and he talked about the existential challenge of rebelliousness. Now he had Saturn in Gemini, and Saturn Gemini, we're going to have Saturn Gemini in 2030. Saturn Gemini is the limitation on childhood, the limitation on speech, the limitation of the ability. With Gemini, we begin with playing the field. It can be this way, it can be that way. There's that side of the coin, there's the flip side of the coin. And then there is the part where we have to eliminate one option and go with the rest. Okay, we have to choose, okay, and go with the rest. This is why Jupiter in Gemini is in detriment, because we have to choose a philosophy, we have to choose a religion, we have to pick sides, so to speak. This is also why right now when we have Uranus in Gemini, we have a civil war, and there definitely is a side that eventually wins the war. Okay? Saturn here makes a limitation that either we have to choose prematurely, which literally is the essence of satanic abuse, or there is limit to the ability to eliminate. Okay, something decides for us, hey, you're left with that. Now, for some people, they may find it relieving, but not Albert Camus. Actually, it's going to be a bit personal, but I had this eureka. For one of the first people that I dated was Pisces Sun, and I don't know ascendant. They were studying psychology. Um, they came from a secret society family, I know now. But then they said that they believe that not having choice is a relief, that people want people to decide for them. Now, to their defense, they were speaking from the Piscean point of view. Although Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, Pisces is also the great vast, the ocean. And with the ocean, you go with the flow. So their mindset that was a predisposition to many things that they were susceptible to was that, hey, people don't like, people want people to decide for them. People are overwhelmed with choice. And I can't say that you know, when there is an artificial chaos, that can be true. But in a day-to-day, when you think about the Albert Camus, it's the exact opposition to that. The existential crisis is about the need to have a choice. So Albert Camus grew in that world which that person that I was previously talking about was bringing about. And this is exactly what the axis of 2030 is, the axis between the people that say, okay, and those people, you know, CEOs, the people that wear the one black t-shirt because they want to eliminate having to make choices so that they can concentrate on something. But what they neglect to mention is that they allocate choices so that they can create something that they choose. Okay? It's not about having everything decided for you. It's about you are deciding what you decide on and what you don't decide on, and you allocate these choices. And you can retrieve and retract this allocation. Albert Camus was very well aware of the structure of the limitations around choice that is asked, people are asked to prematurely decide, and in childhood where they don't form an existence yet, or they are not even given or the right to choose. And then he also tended to the limitations on the youth, which is also Gemini. The youth have energy, but then Saturn drains it, or they don't have wisdom, which can also be Saturn. Whereas the more we grow older, then we have a less energy. Okay, Saturn in Gemini can give us wisdom regarding to youth. Because Saturn is also what we, Gemini can also be studies, with Mercury here in Sagittarius is philosophy. And Saturn is something that takes dedication, it takes steps. Okay, for example, during the coming social revolution, we're going to have Saturn in Gemini, which means that there's going to be dedication so that we can get to the nitty-gritty of things. Just like I was talking about the Epstein list, there's the money laundering, there's the mind control, and there's the fact that the list of names would give you the tip of the iceberg. What you don't have is the invisibles that manage and are also managed in a web of mind control. Okay, so when somebody's taking drugs and there's another personality acting through them, you can have them on tape raping a child. But there's another layer to that, and that is the fact that when they do these rituals, they also have another encryption layer where they summon people's spirits and take on shapes of other people. And so even when you go to the hidden layer, you have somebody, let's say, I don't know, they take one person's shape or energy shape, juxtapose it with another person. So even when you read the frequency, you have to go to the trajectory where the ceremony was done to summon that entity into that entity. Pluto 0 degree Cancer, Moon 28 degrees Aquarius, Moon here in Aquarius, ruling over Pluto, ruling over 22 Mars, ruling over Neptune, all of them in Cancer. So this is all given existential crisis, but this is the Moon Nakshatra that is very associated with experimentation, with what people call the matrix, and with either succumbing to the matrix. Some of the people with these nakshatras can go through ritual abuse, unfortunately, particularly of the MK Ultra type, like experimentation. And these are the people that see both the light and the dark facets of experimentation, and they can also become people that want to do that to people. Okay, and this is it's nakshatra that only in one pada we have satisfaction with relationships. The rest, it can give great success, but something to do with children may cause a downfall. Again, leading to all the things that I have spoken about. Lilith Rahu in Pisces, Jupiter in Capricorn. So first of all, Rahu in the 7th house, Rahu Lilith descendant. So this is definitely a person who, when we think about L'Homme Rebelle, is definitely a person who came from the desire to break through a limitation or to purge a limitation, because Ketu in Mercury sign and Mercury ruling over Saturn, a desire to purge a limitation, and that's his career, made a career out of it, because this is the 10th house. Okay, so he embodies a desire to purge a limitation. Lot of fortune on Aldebaran. And as he goes into the second part of life, he is introduced to another form of trajectory. Kind of like the juncture where I meet again this chart, or where I meet for the first time this chart. I was reading L'Homme Rebelle, yes, at the end of the 2000s, and now upon my Rahu maturation, coming Rahu maturation next year, I am re-embarking, but this time through astrology. And Rahu Lilith on the descendant, it means that as this person goes through the one-to-one relationships, partners, enemies, allies, he is confronted with the connection, the deep connection with sexual sovereignty and spiritual sovereignty, and the limitation of that through satanic ritual abuse of children. Okay, let me break down this mathematical expression. Lilith, sexual sovereignty; Pisces, spirituality; Jupiter in Capricorn, limitation of spirituality; Saturn, satanic ritual abuse; Gemini, children; again Mercury in Sagittarius as a misconstrued notion of freedom. A free man is not to oppress another. And it's sort of like he's coming to purge a limitation on being a child, because he wants to be free. And as he moves forward into that there is some sort of I don't want to say entrapment, but definitely he's wiser with the years as to what is it that he's trying to purge, and yet the energy, okay, um, Lilith can also denote situations of incubus and succubus in a person's life. And Lilith does not mean that is incubus and succubus in a person's life. And that can also be the energy drain, by the way. But Jupiter in Capricorn can be also draining on the energy. Capricorn in Pisces, Chiron in Pisces, Capricorn in Pisces. Let me captivate that Capricorn in Pisces. This is funny. I had an astrology teacher that had ascendant Aquarius, and it's my 12th house. And I said he has ascendant in the 12th house. I was like, this is projection. So Uranus opposition Neptune. This is Uranus is anything revolutionary, also astrology, and Neptune is what we have to surrender in life. Venus in Libra, so topic of balancing things, and this is the last decan of Libra where extreme action has to be taken to balance something, and this is in alignment with the Saturn. To balance, to balance the lack of choice, and extreme action has to be taken. I think about the last decan of Libra as the decan where you have kind of the correcting feminism, or the extreme action. Okay, it's kind of like, hey, women did not make money enough like the men, and then the correction, or women did not get into jobs, or let's say with racism, okay, people did not have access to these and these and these jobs. Now they have corrective. We take particularly BIPOC people, or particularly women, and this is done after the acts of balances and checks and balances were operating, and it still did not help. So an extreme action to the other side of the scale is taken. Okay, there's also a decan of Speak Up, which is balance of trade, but also justice and jurisdiction. The Neptune Uranus opposition can give us a situation where the revolution goes diluted, or there's a revolution, but there's something that dilutes it, or there's something that it's kind of like turning fighting windmills, and that can give us the spirit of L'Homme Rebelle. Whereas right now we have the bisextile with Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. But we both have to surrender things, but there's also, there is actually a manifestation as well. Jupiter in the 5th house, sextile Sun, Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon don't make a particular aspect, they make a minor aspect. Moon on Magha Nakshatra very much associated with the intellect. Okay, these people are very inspiring intellectually. Okay, the Moon is what we receive, is the receptive part, and this nakshatra, but there is an experimentation part to this, that this is a person who is aware of the human existence as an experiment. Okay, and this is what the existential crisis is essentially about. some folks need to make a video. So some folk need to make a podcast or something. Rather, there's just people trying to have a conversation with me, which is very much appreciated. And it's almost like a teacher is kind of like, hey, they have this to say and that to say and that to say. I'm like, yes, this is correct. But of course, they cannot speak about that too openly, more than they have. So that's just a lot coming up with this. It arrives at a certain time where the limitations of speech on speech are such that some of the people behind those limitations, they try to speak through the speaking people. Okay? They try to speak through the speaking people. And as one of those speaking people, this is something that I run into a lot. Okay, the people want to explain, they want to express, they want to, and their control over another person's expression is coming from the control over their speech because of the secret society dumbfuckery. And that's just something interesting that is happening. There's another meta layer to this. And talking about the constraints on speech, there are many people that try to not just live through people, but also speak through those who can speak. And unlike channeling, where in a mediumship work I can say, I channel now this and that person, what do they want to say to the crowd? First of all, some of them have a living family. And secondly, when it is a living person, sometimes even a public speaking person, there are things that they can say, but only through another person saying that. And that can create the underlying limitation on speech, because they also want to have a say, but they can't say it. And this is where the people that live with the risk of death, as they speak, so that is that trajectory, and it arises with Albert Camus. Yeah. Is essentially the need to have sovereignty and the hidden layers of it. That arise. Albert Camus, Rao in the 7th house. So Rao in the 7th house is about the eagerness to go beyond the self, and Mercury is also in Jupiter's sign. The eagerness to have a union, while not having done that before. And the closer that goes towards that union, issues of the Lilith type, so that can be about sexual sovereignty, whether it's because of incubus and succubus, whether it's because of a sexual boundary violation, even outside of the phenomena of incubus and succubus. those things begin to arise, and this is where the wisdom, okay, comes in, but also the challenge around what the energy. And in that trajectory, I also want to say that a lot of these challenges, because as many people that are within those cult confines, um, their soul definitely wants out. Their soul definitely wants out. There's tremendous emotional challenge with that, and there's a desire to have a connection with the world that is outside, and then the notion that they practice things that at the very least can sometimes drain on the energy. I mean, satanic abuse. So that immense desire for connection, because the food that think about this energy is food, but it's actually connection. That's the food. That's what is missing. Is the emotional connection, the relation, um, and the intense and the desire to have that connection in a way that is actually safe and free. Whereas the web of the things that are around or surrounding certain people, particularly in those upper echelons, I dare say, is that that it works in a certain way where everybody wants to break free. Everybody wants to break free from that. Yeah, that's what I think about it. It's the people that exist in a certain way, but they don't fully get to exist as themselves, because those things that, even the thoughts that they are thinking, they have to think through another person sometimes. People say, well, that sounds like, the Nazi era, and I'm like, good morning. I remember when I first ran into this omen of Sunbound, people want to have a say in what you say, and I'm like, but wait, but what about my voice? And then it's like, well, people have been silenced since infanthood. It's kind of like all of us to certain degrees, and Either we have been deprived of that information, and some through dissociation. Definitely the themes of Flom Rebel accompanying me throughout my entire life. And then to come into, to even brush energies. It's like, okay, I think since infanthood, in a very real way, we have been brought up in various ways, whether it's, outside of certain societies or being disincluded, um, but in certain ways that the the cost of even brushing shoulders with the energy of connection has been so tremendous. And yet that only manifested the desire to have a safe and free connection. And the desire to include all of us. Because there is an acute awareness of the extremes of union and oneness and division and fragmentation to dissociation. And so every person is becoming a little bit of a conglomerate of personalities. But it's not a conglomerate of personalities, it's kind of like a collective consciousness that we all experience, and each and every one of us can give a certain voice in that, and yet there is not a competition, but definitely a big desire of many people to speak through. Okay, as a person, that talks about things, it meets a lot of people that want to express themselves through me, and those are not dead people. Okay, and those are also people that I can't tell you, oh, now I'm channeling, I'm receiving the energy of this person, receiving the energy of that person. I mean, if you're smart and you read energies, then you understand that. But it's not about smart. It's about if you have that discernment about energy, or you pay attention and you identify for what the other energy is. But this is other than AI and stuff like that. It's like living people don't get to say those things. Okay, living people don't get to say those things that I talk about. Um, and that's and the desire to find an unusual form of expressing ourselves while being in that the deep desire to connect, because there is so much. It's funny, there's so much sense of relation, and yet I experience it. I have Chiron and Gemini, so having a normal conversation for me, if it gets a little bit emotional, I zone out. I don't know what to do. I don't know I don't know how to speak. Um, and that is not only my attribute alone. So and yet those rituals, that pertain to that society. It's like everybody wants that to stop. We don't really know how. That's what I see. And it's incredibly scary, and yet there's almost an inevitableness of connection that is actually safe. There's an inevitable safe connection that arises from that inherently, repetitively, continuously life-risking form of existence. And it's not it's not how should I say, it's quite normal that it arises with the energy of Albert Camus, which was one of the existential thinkers, the existential crisis thinkers. Um, and we used to think about it as the time between two wars, but after the wars. But this is an ongoing thing. um, and with that, there is desire to have a distinct voice as well. And so people grow as collective consciousness, but it's not like that. How should I say that? Aside of the mediumship of like people that are no longer, there's also almost a crowd. It's kind of like you open, you know these radio shows where you kind of like have callers on the line and they want to say something. And so sometimes when I broadcast, I feel like this is exactly the situation. And those are not dead people. Those are living people, and they can't say that in public or in private. Um, it makes me think the Gedanke ist frei was both an anti-Nazi song and a Nazi song. And yet no single pattern of existence had more attempts at it than what we think. So to dictate of what we choose and what we speak and so on. And yet the intensification, the more somebody tries to control something, the less they do. Yeah, that's what I have to say.